I've never really cared for sports. In Australia here, some of the big ones are rugby league and AFL, but neither of those ever really clicked with me. I always had a place in my heart for football, or soccer to be inclusive, but I've never really been fully engrossed by it. The only time I'd actively watch it would usually be during the World Cup once every 4 years. Otherwise, it wouldn't really be much more than a passing thought. I always just figured sports weren't really my thing and that my passions just lied elsewhere. As a teenager, I'd rather just watch anime or YouTube or just grind out Black Ops 2 till all hours of the AM instead of just sitting and watching people run around a field chasing balls. But how naive I was. It's only now, as a fully grown 25-year-old man with a fully developed prefrontal cortex, that I finally realized it wasn't sport in general that wasn't for me. It's just that I was never watching the right sports. Because the sport that really captivated me, the one that grips me tight and doesn't let go, the one that puts me on the edge of my seat, is motorsport. And the one that's captured my heart out of every possible outlet in this sport is the pinnacle of motorsports, Formula One. I have two people to thank for my recent entry into this sport. The first was when about 9 months ago, tech YouTuber Marques Brownlee made a video on the science, tech, and structure behind F1. Yes, it was pretty surface level, all things considered, but it was more than enough to light the initial spark that fully ignited not even a month later when Rick's F1 addiction posted the video that rightfully blew his channel up into the stratosphere, Formula One explained by an idiot. I can't thank the guy enough for explaining it and breaking it down in the way a zoomer like myself would finally get it.
Let me put it in a language you can understand.
Now, Formula One, with all of its glamour, beauty, speed, adrenaline, and engineering, is essentially 20 rich guys driving in circles. Thank you so much for watching.
Now, because I am so new to this sport, I don't want this video to come across as me trying to be some sort of authority on the subject, because quite frankly, I'm not. Instead, what I want this video to be is a deep dive into something I've very quickly noticed in the near season I've been involved with this sport, which is the passion that fuels Formula One. Because at the very start of the very first Formula One race I ever watched, all the way back in March of this year, the Australian Grand Prix, what I saw wasn't just a race. It was a Twitch chat going batshit crazy alongside a live broadcast of smoke emerging from the back of Max Verstappen's car, leaving him to retire from the race early, followed by everyone else saying, "This is it. Finally, the start of another great season of Formula One." And I'm not one to pray on anyone's downfall. I've got no skin in this game. I'm no Max Verstappen hater or lover. But that liveliness that I saw from the fans when the status quo from the previous season of him just winning everything was stripped away, that was a kind of passion I can get behind. The sound of burning rubber, roaring engines, and the sight of such finesse and these guys driving, even through a fucking TV screen, was mesmerizing. Even without the old V10s, which I will admit, from all the clips I've seen, definitely do sound a hell of a lot better. Pair that with the tension in the air through each lap that can be felt through each refresh of Twitter, of a Twitch chat, just to see how hundreds and thousands, if not millions of others are reacting to this shared experience. The stakes are high. The machines are the best in their class. The drivers are amongst the best in the world. And it all culminates in the most action-packed, high-octane, passion-fueled sport you will ever see. But why? The puzzle pieces that come together to make up Formula One are pretty clear. But why does it evoke such an intense reaction from people? What is it about this sport that draws in millions of fans from all over the world? Where does this underlying passion come from? To find out, we've got to start with the drivers. To understand the passion of F1, we've got to go back. Whoa, hold on, not that far back. This isn't that kind of video. I'm not here to bore you to death, and no disrespect to any of these past racers or drivers. In all seriousness, there are undoubtedly some legends in F1's history, but every single one of them dating back all the way to the 50s doesn't quite directly correlate to the passion we see today. Maybe it does a little indirectly, but I mean, if you really want to go back and learn all about F1's history, this isn't the video for you. There's like 100 others that do it so much better than I ever could, because these people have been watching the sport for years and just know about it so much more. Because really, why would you want to listen to the guy who self-admittedly has only been watching F1 for less than a year monologue to you about shit he knows nothing about? I wasn't there for Sebastian Vettel, Nico Rosberg, Kimi Raikkonen, Michael Schumacher, Jenson Button, Alain Prost, or Ayrton Senna. Hell, I was barely there for the last 6 months of Daniel Ricciardo's career. But I guess I am lucky enough to still see drivers like Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen absolutely tear up the track, whether they're still in their prime or not. And I get to see up-and-coming drivers like my Aussie brother Oscar Piastri rack up wins already. And let me be clear, never in my life have I been very patriotic. I mean, Australia is great and all, but I don't actually know anyone that's even a fraction as patriotic as, for example, the average American. However, when it comes to Formula One, that's something else. The parasocial relationship to my fellow Aussies just absolutely takes over. And suddenly, Daniel Ricciardo and Oscar Piastri are my brothers, my ride or dies. And obviously, I will white knight them through almost anything. Like, guys, come on. Oscar didn't know the significance of that date when he tweeted that one tweet. He's not American, all right? And to be fair, on this side of the world, we do dates the correct order. So really, he just thought it was 11-9 like the rest of us. Plus, I mean, come on. How was he really supposed to know when the average American school kid thinks that that whole event is just a meme? At least if you believe everything that green text posts say. But if we steer back on track for a second, it is pretty clear the drivers we watch on and off the track are the lifeblood of this sport. And more to that, the rivalries some of these drivers have been captivating to revisit in hindsight. As someone new to the sport, being able to look back on these legendary clashes between drivers like James Hunt and Niki Lauda, Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill, the era of what I've seen called as the Big Three, with Vettel, Alonso and Hamilton duking it out. Even as recent as the fierce competition between Verstappen and Hamilton for the last few years. And I was witnessing that passion today as if I was around at the time, all while sitting in this very office chair, or while making lunch, or while eating lunch, or doing literally anything really that can leave one hand free to just sit and scroll through a fuck ton of, honestly, pretty well crafted Instagram reels. The second Daniel Ricciardo got booted from VCARB, my feed was absolutely flooded with tributes to his legacy in the sport, which honestly was the inspiration for me making this video. I mean, come on, how many edits with that Like a Prayer remix from Deadpool and Wolverine do you have to see to feel something? Hell, even after seeing hundreds of them, the good ones still get me. I've been wanting to talk about F1 for months at this point, but seeing the entire community come together and rally behind this guy, showcasing his moments and giving him the send-off that VCARB and F1 just didn't. Not only was that inspirational, but it just highlights the sheer passion the fans have for the sport. But I'm not quite ready to talk about that yet. Because the more I let myself dive into this sport and the more I learn, the more I recognize and appreciate the passion these drivers have. Now, I don't want to glaze these multi-millionaires too much, but let's be real for a minute. Some of them deserve a little bit of glazing.
Here comes Lando Norris, this time on Max Verstappen.
What they do is no small feat, and it takes a whole different level of passion to wake up in the morning and train like these guys do. Then wake up the next morning and put their life on the line on the racetrack like these guys do. Yes, the safety tech has come a long way over the years, but it is still stupidly dangerous driving around at the speeds and G-forces these guys do. Just for a minute, take a look at my neck compared to Lewis Hamilton. One of these guys looks like they can tackle corners at over 200 kilometers per hour, and the other is Lewis Hamilton. No, but in all seriousness, Hamilton's neck reportedly measures in at 18 inches, whereas by comparison, my neck, got a measuring tape just to quickly compare, as you do. Always have that handy. My neck, I'm assuming they measure from the thickest point, because, you know, why wouldn't you? Measure from the base. My neck, where is it? There. So what's that? Almost 16 inches. Just to, let's say 15 and a half. Let's be not so generous, I suppose. So my neck's just above the average, I guess, of 15 and a half. That's a 3-inch difference between this and Lewis Hamilton. So if you even want to picture it, let's mark out 18. And that right there, I think I've got it right. That's how much extra fucking girth my boy has on me. God damn. At least I can say I beat the guy in 3 inches elsewhere. That being height. Almost. But just for a second, I want you guys to look at the kind of accidents these guys can get into. And just imagine they didn't have these fucking massive girthy necks. Their heads would genuinely probably just pop off. Like there was the incident where Max hit the wall at 51 Gs. Now look at the accident. Maybe on the cameras it doesn't look as bad as you would think, but then look at Daniel Ricciardo's reaction to being told Max hit the wall at 51 Gs. That would fuck you up. And yet there are people out here that are acting like Formula One isn't a sport. Hell, the bloody brake pedal is probably heavier than most people can single leg press in the first place. And there's the heat in the cockpit, the oddly shaped claustrophobic looking driving position that apparently is comfortable according to some drivers, but looks like hell to me. Plus, then there's the reaction time you need to participate in a sport like this. Pairing all those things together, it's genuinely insane that these guys can do this. What's even more insane are the many decades these drivers partook in the sport prior to the Halo being developed, where unfortunately a lot of talented drivers just never made it back to the paddock. Some who left a long-lasting legacy like Ayrton Senna, and others who you may hear of less often but are all still a tragedy all the same. Drivers like Roland Ratzenberger, Riccardo Paletti, and most recently Jules Bianchi, whose accident led to the creation of the Halo in and of itself, which has then gone to save many, many lives since then, and fortunately enough, we haven't had another Formula One fatality since his accident over a decade ago. Although I should mention, we did have one driver who literally emerged from fire like a phoenix, so there's that too. While we're still talking about the drivers, and before I shift tone a little, I did want to touch on the camaraderie and respect these guys have for each other on and off the track. Like the way Ricciardo and Verstappen were such good mates in and out of Red Bull over the years. I've seen hundreds of moments from their times together that people have stitched into fun little montages for Instagram. And the same goes with other drivers like Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. Even just single iconic moments like Hamilton giving his position to Bottas, Schumacher giving Barrichello the top podium after being given the victory, and not long after that, just slowing down to cross the line together with him. Although I have seen some stray comments of people calling that very embarrassing for the sport. Not too sure why, maybe you can leave me some context in the comments below. It seemed like a pretty iconic moment to me. And there was Alonso, Vettel and Hamilton doing donuts at the end of the 2018 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. That's fucking iconic. Or the moments of compassion, like when Senna got out of his car mid-race to try and help Comas, and Comas trying to do the exact same thing to repay the favour later. But unfortunately, Senna didn't survive that time. Then there was the interview with Schumacher after his win that put him on equal footing with the late Ayrton Senna, who was right ahead of him in the race where he passed. And just seeing the emotions flood him on that panel was just It's insane. These guys are very clearly a tight-knit group. There aren't a lot of people that do what they do or even could do what they do. So there's a just service level of respect built in there. And if I actually got around to watching Drive to Survive, I might have actually had some more modern moments to use as examples here, but this is a great opportunity again for you guys to come in. Leave a comment down there just below the like and subscribe buttons. I want to hear about your favorite rivalries, your favorite drivers, your favorite Grand Prix, hell, your favorite seasons as a whole. Tell me it all so that I or anyone else watching this video that's new to the sport can do a little bit of homework and learn about some of the more iconic moments of this sport's history. Like, for example, a moment I saw come up once again on social media was when Sebastian Vettel got enough points in his last race to secure his third world championship win. This was in 2012, in the rain, after being spun out and put at the back, paired with radio issues and some slow pit stops with pit stop issues because of the radio issues and lack of communication. That was an insane drive to watch, even today. Unfortunately, like I said at the very beginning, when that race took place back in 2012, I was 13 and far too busy grinding out Diamond Camos in Black Ops 2 to realize some of the best racing in Formula 1 history was taking place. While the cars, the rules, and the technology has clearly changed over the years, one thing has remained constant, which is the sheer greatness of all of these drivers over the years, fueled by their passion for the sport. But where would these drivers be if they didn't have the machinery to operate in the first place? These stupidly expensive, refined, regulated, but most gorgeous pieces of moving art you will ever see. Which is a very weird thing for me to say because growing up, I never really got the appeal of F1 cars, which is actually part of the reason I never took an interest in the sport in the first place. Growing up, they always looked kind of goofy to me. Like, a car's a car, right? It has doors, it has a windscreen. Sure, it comes in many different shapes and sizes, but it always looked like a car. F1 cars, on the other hand, break the mold completely. They have big, chunky tires and have body lines all over the place and are shaped like this arrow of the sorts. So it was always this weird feeling I got where they looked nothing quite like I was accustomed to, and it's not like there was something I could ever buy or drive myself out on the road, because, well, you can't really just go to a showroom and buy an F1 car and take it around on the street. So with all those things in mind, I kind of lost interest. Instead, much preferring the JDM Fast and the Furious scene because that was just something more attainable. It was real to me. Real. Not so attainable anymore anyway. But over the years, I have really come to appreciate the craftsmanship and even the aesthetics of the vehicles that push the pinnacle of motorsports forward. It's like a switch flicked in my brain and suddenly my tastes have broadened. These things are just insane. Like, come on, F1 cars in public streets and places they shouldn't be. It's gotta be one of my favorite genders. Like, look at it, the picture of the Ferrari at the fucking Shell gas station. Such a vibe, man. There is some incredible engineering prowess behind these machines, but it does seem a little bit redundant for me to be talking about it when there are other videos from people much more knowledgeable that already do it far better, like this one. Alternatively, if you really want to get in depth with it, you can just check out Chamber's channel and binge all his content. What I really want to get into is the passion that builds these machines. With each year of new technology and improvements and each FIA rule change, the constructors of Formula 1 need to adapt. Not only do they need to try and create the fastest cars that they can, they need to try and adapt them to the drivers as much as the drivers need to try and adapt themselves to the new cars. It's a balancing act from all parties involved, and sometimes it can create a symphony. like Vettel in his RB9, going so far as to bow to it after winning the 2013 Indian Grand Prix and securing his 4th world title. Or the way Hamilton dominated in his W11 in 2020. Or if you go even further back, look at Michael Schumacher in the F2004. These are such iconic driver and car pairings that even someone who's barely been watching the sport for a season has seen all of them in my endless doom scrolling of F1 fucking TikTok. These pairings clearly made enough of an impact for people to still be talking about them today. And it really all just ties beautifully into my last video on the solar machines and even a bit into my Wangan Midnight video, because that's what this is all about. A man and machine connecting on another level and pushing the boundaries of what is possible. A driver in their car isn't all that makes up this side of Formula One though. About the racing engineers on the radio. The interactions between these drivers and their engineers can really go to warm your heart sometimes, especially after a well-fought win. Like, for example, just listen to the euphoria in Lando Norris's voice after winning the Miami Grand Prix.
You've done it, mate. You've done it. Oh, about time. I love you all. Thank you so much. We did it, Will! We did it! We finally did it, mate. Lando, no win, sir.
They can also be a good laugh in other times that might have just been mundane moments. And on occasion, if the driver and engineer just aren't on the same wavelength, it can also be infuriating to witness. Like when Ricciardo got called to box in the 2016 Monaco Grand Prix, but the pit crew weren't even ready with new tyres yet, causing him to lose so much time that he lost his position and the race to Lewis Hamilton, which was just absolutely heartbreaking to witness, even 8 years later. So for all this to work, not only does the driver and their machine have to be working in complete unison, they also need complete trust in their engineers and their pit crew to perform everything perfectly from each of their respective ends. Also, a race can go as planned. It's like one big ecosystem, and if any of the components in that ecosystem fail, the whole thing just falls apart. But if everyone commits to their roles and executes them perfectly, well, then they can make magic happen. So with that in mind, I do think a lot of people outside of the drivers really drew the short straw in terms of appreciation, because each and every one of them do play pivotal roles in their own right. Roles they put hours of work, blood, sweat, tears, and most importantly, passion into perfecting. Because you don't get this good at your craft, whether it be as an engineer, any person in the pit crew, as a strategist, as a principal trying to tie everything together, or even as a driver, without a genuine passion for what you do. The pursuit of greatness, of victory, and the passion to build the machines and the teams around them to work like clockwork to get you there is the fuel that continuously drives F1 forward. But what is it that amplifies that passion? What can carry it to greater heights? Make sure it is heard by the masses. Make sure the right stories are told that hit every single emotional beat that they need to. Make sure the most impactful moments are not only heard, but remembered. Well, of course, it's not a what at all. It's a who. And that who are the commentators. The very first time I saw this in action, and what made me really go to research and include commentators in this video, was at this year's Monaco Grand Prix, hearing Alex Jacques tell Charles Leclerc's story. And I've just got to take a second to play it, because even if you've heard it before, you're going to want to hear it again. I can't play the whole thing though because of copyright, so hopefully I can at least play this little bit. If you see nothing here, it's because it's been clipped out and copyrighted.
In 2017, Charles Leclerc lost his father, and in his final days, he told his father a white lie, that he'd made it to Formula One, that he'd signed the contract. It wasn't true then, but his driving has made it true now, and look what he's done with the opportunity.
Like, just damn. That is a beautiful moment that could only be told by someone who's dedicated their life to this sport and learnt everything they can about all of these drivers over the years. Like, I really need you to sit down and appreciate how insane this is. In the heat of a Formula 1 race that is already intense enough, with so many drivers and so many different things you could theoretically be talking about at any given time, to be able to give everything else in your mind a back seat and focus. Remember this story for the driver who happens to be coming first at the time, and then deliver that story with such finesse. That is the work of a sheer passion for what you do. Maybe I am a little biased as someone who tries to tell compelling stories in YouTube videos, but that level of storytelling off the whim in that environment, it's mind-boggling. My guy just pulled that straight out of his ass, and it is probably better than the speech I did at my best mate's wedding that I prepared for months to do. But the glazing doesn't even stop here, my friend. David Croft is undoubtedly the voice of modern Formula 1. Even before ever watching F1, I would hear bits and pieces of his audio from races everywhere. His commentary clips are all over the internet. Like, just listen to the absolute liveliness he brings to this sport.
But the championship can only be won by one, and it's going Dutch in 2021. Max Verstappen, for the first time ever, is champion of the world.
Everything I also said previously absolutely applies to this man as well. The passion is undeniable, and it truly brings the sport to life. We can even look back on the commentators of old, like Murray Walker and James Hunt. They don't quite provide that same oomph you get these days. They're definitely a product of the entertainment industry at the time. They were relevant, but you do get some funny remarks here and there, even from such old commentary. And to be fair, they really are the voice of those older generations of F1, so you can't deny that either. What we also can't forget is that there are far more than just English commentators. Italian, Spanish, French, and everything else in between. There is such beautiful commentary for this sport from all across the globe. But if I needed to pick one, it would have to be Carlo Vanzini. Like, just listen to this guy for a second. Even if you know absolutely no Italian and don't understand a single word he's saying, you can feel the emotion and the passion in this dude's voice.
Affronta l'ultima curva, el matador, el matador, el matador, Carlos Sainz vince di forza il Gran Premio d'Australia. Buongiorno Italia, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 Ferrari. E questa è la gioia. L'urlo di una squadra, lasciate cucinare Vasseur, l'urlo di una squadra che ci crede e non molla.
There are some loaned words between Italian and Maltese, so every now and then maybe I'll pick up a few words that he's saying, even though my Maltese knowledge is also very, very limited. Sorry, nonna. But like I said, there really is just a passion in his voice that absolutely breaks down any language barriers. Now, all that passion from these commentators doesn't come without its moments, though. Moments that Instagram accounts like Formula.com deliver right to your door same day, with absolute classics like
squirting it down the back of your throat.
Oh, delightful. Ted Kravitz, Max Verstappen about to come. That is how you do it when you've not got sticky nuts on edge.
Beautiful cock.
He's been out front and he's been stroking it a little bit.
And guess what, guys? It's coming. It's coming. It's coming!
George Russell edging Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton.
He's already got Massa coming inside him.
It's dumb. It's not even that funny, but it also kind of is just that funny, isn't it? Accounts like that, dedicated to moments in Formula 1, and many others focusing on other moments in the sport, are a part of this last realm of passion I'm yet to delve into, which is you. Undoubtedly, the fans are the heartbeat that has kept Formula 1 pumping over the years, which is why so many attempts have been made to garner new fans into this sport. Whether older fans love it or hate it, shows like Drive to Survive are what keeps F1 at the forefront of motorsport. Without fresh blood and a growing fan base, the sport would die off. But As it stands, it doesn't look like it'll be dying anytime soon. Now, I still haven't made the time to watch Drive to Survive, but I would wager a lot of the clips I see online are likely from that show, mainly because of how stupidly popular it became. Since it started airing, the fan base for Formula One has nearly doubled, and the target demographic has broadened to much younger viewers like myself, as well as garnering a massive female audience that it never really had before. Because what Drive to Survive clearly started was focusing in more on the entertainment value and the stories derived from the sport, rather than just tunnel visioning in on the adrenaline and the fast races. Like the teams in Formula One, the sport itself has so many different moving components. And what Netflix figured out is that if you give each and every component equal attention, you can broaden your audience while still retaining what made the sport so special. You're just showing new aspects of it that this new audience might care more for than the only aspect of it that you really showed before, which was the pure racing. That's why shows like Top Gear were so popular and successful. They had something for everyone. I saw this comment on a great YouTube video that I'll link above, which summarized what I'm trying to say here pretty well. In a stereotypical nuclear family, a son watches Top Gear for the cool cars and challenges. A daughter might watch it for the comedy factor and because Hammond was a cutie patootie. The dad would watch for the adult jokes and fucking around, and the mum would join because the family is all together and might enjoy watching the celebrity guests and cute guys too, which seems like a very similar connection to what makes Drive to Survive so popular. And for the girls and the gays, I mean, come on, I love Top Gear just as much as the next guy, but even I can see that the F1 lads are far easier on the eyes than my boys. So yes, Formula One is more popular than ever, with Grand Prix tickets crashing websites and selling out in under an hour, so I'm definitely not going to the Melbourne Grand Prix in 2025. That is, unless someone famous in the industry happens to see this and wants to get tickets for me and my wife to come have a geese. My emails are always open, but what actually comes with this newfound popularity? Of course, you'll just get more of the passionate F1 fans you've always had, but then you may also pick up some parasocial Twitter warriors along the way. As YouTuber Perspective puts it,
I genuinely think Formula One fans believe if they change their profile picture to Charles Leclerc, they're friends with Charles Leclerc, and it's up to them to defend him with all that they have.
And he's right. Some people have become so parasocially attached to their favorite driver, they will literally white knight them with everything they have. And no, it's not the same as what I was talking about earlier with Oscar Piastri and Daniel Ricciardo. Obviously, I'm fucking around by comparison. But honestly, fuck that negativity. I'm going to be honest with you. I've been in a lot of different fandoms over the years. And while I may not be the best, Formula One is easily one of the better ones I've been a part of. Mainly because the love for the sport runs so deep that the passion completely outweighs the bullshit. And usually, you will find a lot of that passion off of Twitter. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind it so much on race days in particular, you know, refreshing your feed and seeing lap by lap commentary on what's going on if you can't actually watch it live. But I will say, if the option's available, I much rather would have a Twitch chat open while everyone's simultaneously watching the broadcast live on their paid subscriptions, of course. But out of every platform I've looked at, I've really noticed that Instagram and YouTube in particular have the most people with the most passion for this sport. I mean, just go on your phone, go on Instagram, search Formula One, watch one reel, and the next thing you know, you're going to be absolutely flooded with a whole heap of immaculate edits, half of which are probably stolen, and then you'll also see the repeat of, you know, that one Formula One edit or that one Lewis Hamilton edit, all these things from people that are reposting and engagement farming. But if you can look past that, there is so much passion put into the projects on these platforms. And you can genuinely learn so much about Formula One and its history from all of these clips. Sure, it's not going to be a perfect knowledge, but it is going to be more than enough to get you interested, to grip you. And when fans are getting other fans interested into the thing that they like, it really is a sign of a healthy and growing community. Even the people making social media content for the official F1 team seem like they absolutely love their job, and it just shows in the content. When you watch it, it's clear they're just having such a fun time putting this stuff together, and the best way I can describe it is the clear difference between, for example, a video game made with a lot of passion and effort behind it, and a video game purely made for corporate profit. Like, you can see when passion is put into something. And of course, with some research, I have been able to see just how passionate these fans are in real life. They really show up, and even just saying that is a little bit of an understatement. Each Grand Prix is like a carnival on steroids, and the fans that attend just go all out. Head to Japan and you'll see some of the craziest shit they come up with, and the cosplaying and all the fun stuff they do just for the love of the sport. And then you'll hear stories about how some of the older fans really loved Formula One for things like Ayrton Senna because of his relationship with McLaren and Honda. Speaking of, then you can head to Brazil and you'll see some of the most die-hard F1 supporters. I mean, just take a look at how many of them showed up for Ayrton Senna's funeral all those years ago. Their heart bled for the man, and you can still hear them chant for him in the grandstands today. Head to Italy and the crowd is covered in a sea of red. You have very many die-hard Ferrari supporters over there. Just look at the scenes from the 2000 Monza Grand Prix when Schumacher won driving a Ferrari and the fans literally flooded the track. Maybe that is going a little bit too far to celebrate, it gets into dangerous territory, but that is some real passion. Same goes for Charles Leclerc winning in Monza this year. The fans went absolutely nuts, and you can only imagine, we can already see, how nuts they're going for a P1 and 2 finish today as I'm recording this. Even here in Australia, I didn't realize the sport was that popular here, but the stats show that we fucking turn up, with the second highest attendance for a Grand Prix in the world, just behind Great Britain. And you got to consider that our population is 1/3 that of Britain. And for those of you in the US, our population is 1/13 of yours. And yet still, more people are showing up to Melbourne of all places than Miami, Vegas, and Austin. But to be fair to you guys, I guess you've got 3 events spread over 3 cities in 3 different times, so that probably dilutes the audience a bit. If you combine those 3 Grand Prix, sure, it's a much higher rate than Melbourne. At the end of the day, it's clear. At the start of any Grand Prix, when the lights go out, it's not just the drivers that feel it. It's the fans in the stands, the millions watching from their homes, the collective breath held around the world, and the asses literally on edges of seats. Like, when I'm on that couch out there on the big screen watching F1, it really is edge of your seat shit. That is passion. The hundreds of edits flooding Instagram reels when Daniel got booted from VCARB, that is passion. The hundreds that come after each race victory no matter who wins, that is passion. The inevitable bombardment on my feed no matter who's going to win the championship this year, that is passion. And all of that, the celebration of highs and lows, of legacy, that is what makes Formula One far more than a typical sport. The amount of worldwide passion put into this one shared experience is insane. And the only other time I've seen anything like it is with football, a sport that is far less niche and far more universally loved than any motorsport likely ever will be. So to even be a fraction as popular and influential as football is on a global scale really paints the picture for how loud and passionate F1 fans really are. Now, I've done a lot of yapping in this video, doing tricks on it even, glazing, if you will. For a sport I've barely been watching for about 6 months as of writing this script and closer to 8 or 9 months as of recording it. And I realize that a lot of what I said isn't unique to Formula One. It can apply to so many other sports and motorsports outside of it. But as it stands, F1 is my entry point and the only one I have any real experience with, even if it's barely 1 season of it. So while I'm still new, it was cool to take a very brief look back at the history of this sport, of its drivers, of its best moments, of the commentators, of just a little bit of everything. And like I said before, if you have been a Formula One fan for a while and are still watching up until this point, Please do me and everyone else that's new watching this a favor and leave in the comments below some of your best moments that people need to check out and know to really enjoy this sport and appreciate it. Give us some guidance. Let us know some must-watch Grand Prix, must-watch seasons, drivers, whatever it may be. Really put a bit of effort in. Get me or anyone else initiated. Seriously, the more fans in this sport, the better. Now, while there are many other similarities, I didn't feel comfortable touching on any other motorsport I don't really have experience with. Things like Le Mans, WRC, V8 Supercars, NASCAR, any of it. Because I haven't really taken the time to experience any of them much past broadly knowing what they are. Most of my car exposure growing up was from Top Gear, Fast and the Furious, and a bunch of Need for Speed games, as well as Gran Turismo 4 and 5. Plus my dad having V8 Supercars on in the background on like a Saturday or Sunday, whenever it takes place, while I didn't really know what was going on because the race lasted for fucking ever and didn't really catch my attention. So I would just kind of sit as a 10-year-old or 12-year-old or whatever and play Pokemon Diamond on the couch instead. So basically what I'm trying to say is I've got a lot of motorsports history to catch up on before I ever try and talk about anything else. But there is no doubt in my mind that each and every one of them is filled with just as much, if not more, passion than Formula One. Today was just its day to shine. Formula One's passion transcends decades, power plants, and even drivers. Just as the eras before laid the foundations for how Formula One is today, so too will the current era inspire the next generation. Even if the cars continue to change shape and sound for better or for worse. Because beneath it all, there is still that same hunger, the same drive, the same need for everyone involved in the sport to come together and do something extraordinary. Formula One is more than just 24 races per year. It is passion personified.